So before I moved to Georgia, I had lost my Comica V30 Lite. And that, at the time, was my favorite microphone, and I used it for pretty much all of my videos. It was super simple. It just plugged into the camera, and I was good to go with my audio, which was nice. Don't know where it went. Looked everywhere for it, but I needed another one, so I asked the Comica reps for another one, and they were delighted to send me the Comica V30 Pro, which is obviously the Pro version of the V30. Now it is a little bit bigger than the Lite version, and one of the few differences between it is the fact that it is battery powered. Now it's battery powered because it has a couple of other options to it. This one has a low cut filter, which if you're unfamiliar with low cut filters, it cuts the lower sounds out of the audio, more of the lower rumbling sounds that are undesirable. Whether it be from movement and vibrations in the microphone itself, which it does have a shock mount, which will help cut back from that, but also sometimes background noise if there are cars or, just a few things. I'm not exactly an expert on this, but it has its purposes for removing lower rumbles that might distract from the crispness of your voice. The other thing that it has, which is nice, is it has a plus 10 decibels switch. Don't make the same mistake as me. When I first used it, I was assuming that the middle switch for the on-off switch, there's three ticks that you can get on this. I assumed that the middle one was on and that the one to the far right was the 10 plus decibels. Then I noticed that the markings were just different and it didn't make sense to me. It would make sense logically to have it in this order, but they didn't put that there. So the middle section is 10 plus decibels. So just submit that to your mind and remember that part. So why would you want 10 plus decibels? So one thing that is sometimes the case is that sometimes the preamps in your camera microphone aren't as good, and if you have it at 0 or plus 10 or 30 or however much your camera limits you to, sometimes it will add a lot of noise to the audio, and that's not as good. So sometimes, like what I like to do with my cameras, I put it at negative 12 decibels in the preamp on the camera, and then boost this to about plus 10, or if it was another one plus, whatever. That way that this becomes more sensitive and it does a better job at picking up more audio, and then the preamps don't get in the way, if that makes sense. So that's typically what I do with my microphones, and it does a pretty good job at it. Now your mileage may vary depending on the type of camera that you do have, so it's worth playing around with and finding the settings that work for you. This is a cardioid microphone, which means that you're going to have to talk more directly into it. If you're behind it, it's not going to sound as good. Obviously I'm not recording with this microphone but sometimes I have to make that distinction. I will give some audio samples in a minute. So yes, the polar patterns are mentioned in the manual, but it's pretty much anything that's in front of it, it's going to pick up more clearly. So if your subject's in front of you, you're going to sound great, but if you're talking behind the camera, you're not going to be heard very well. Although you will be heard, it just won't sound good. Since this is longer, if you are shooting at a super wide angle, or you are shooting with a crop sensor, like a smaller camera with shorter lenses, sometimes the microphone might get in the way. Now this doesn't tend to get in the way so much, but the included wind filter, or dead cat as some call it, will get in the way. The fur will get in the way on your wider shots. So keep that in mind. Maybe be more sparing on that, or just shoot a little tighter. The wind filter does a pretty good job. It's nice that they included it, because wind filters are very good when you're shooting outdoors and there's a lot of wind. So this one slips on like so. Of course it is a little tricky to get on, but then there is a small hole in the back that you pull over, and then you have to pull this through, and there you go. That's fitted. And and then you have your mount open and exposed at the bottom, and you're good to go. Very long, and it will show fur if you're shooting wide, so keep that in mind. All right, I'm gonna do a little bit of driving because car noises are a good example of what this low cut filter could be used for. So right now I am at 0 decibels. My preamp is at -12 decibels. And let me make sure I don't crash into anything expensive here, because this is a fancy neighborhood. It's not one I live in, it's one I was doing a shoot in. Obviously. Let me get out of this neighborhood before I talk too much, because I don't want to hurt anyone. Yes, because sometimes the preamps in cameras aren't that great. So when you have them more sensitive to sound, they'll add a lot of hissing, a lot of noise, and it's just generally undesirable. However, if you lower the sensitivity of the preamps and raise the sensitivity of the microphones themselves, if they're a decent microphone. I just witnessed a crash. Driving right along. Now that I have talked long enough with it off, I'm going to turn it on and see if it changes the audio at all. Now the low cut filter is on. So we're gonna see if there is any less noise in the car. I mean, I can't really tell from here. Oh, I was supposed to turn left. We're gonna turn left this time. So we're gonna see if it took out any undesirable sounds that are going on in the car. I have the AC going. The car isn't the most particularly quiet car in the world. So, yeah, I mean, you know, it could have its uses. How is it left? Yeah. Man, Google's been messing me up. All right. And for a final test, let's move this to plus 10 decibels. All right, now we're plus 10 decibels on the microphone, and there should be a little bit of a difference. So low cut filter on, plus 10 decibels on the microphone. Now these are all identical scenarios. It should sound somewhat the same. I mean, same scenarios should have different outcomes with the different settings. I think you know what I meant. Right now I'm in Halcyon, Georgia, and I am testing it in a somewhat noisy environment. Let's switch it. Now the low cut filter is on. We'll see if it cuts out some of that nasty noise in the background. So it's another day of testing, and now I'm gonna take a little bit of a hike through the woods that happens to be my backyard. And we're gonna see what kind of sounds we can pick up with this microphone and get another environment test to ensure its full accuracy. Now we're gonna try to get some ambient sounds. We're at 10 plus decibels with the low cut filter off. So there we have it, guys. I really do like this microphone. Now I obviously could be doing a lot of tests to really put this microphone through its paces. I think I put a few good examples in, and maybe they'll help you decide whether this is the microphone for you or not. Now, Comica offers quite a few different types of microphones that are really good. I just got another one in that I will also be comparing this to. But this one seems to be more for the premium sounds and the premium recording, which from the samples I gathered, I could hear that it was slightly bassier than other samples I've had from other microphones, which was good. I mean, if you're going for that. Then again, sound, it can be so subjective, so it really depends on your needs. So I hope that the samples I've added and used kind of help you out and determine whether this is the type of microphone that you need or that you prefer. I don't know why I'm out of breath suddenly. I should probably breathe more when I talk. The differences in the audio between the 10 plus decibels and the low cut filter were very subtle. I didn't notice extreme differences, although I did notice some differences that were there. And I think it often depends on your need. Now, low cut filters are very specific in what they do for you. It's not necessarily a background noise remover, but it can help remove things like rumble, like if you're shaking the camera or something and it moves the camera or moves the microphone around, it may help reduce some of that noise, or just low rumbles in a room like a AC or something like that. It's supposed to help aid in things like that. So I think it would have its specific uses there, but I wouldn't expect anything too dramatic or drastic there. But it is nice that it is there. So again, I'll leave it all up to you by you listening to it and see whether this is in fact the microphone for you. Comica offers a lot of microphones, some that I love to use regularly, and I mean, they're all right in my book. Anyway, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys later.